My daughter marched into the bank waving a power of attorney with my signature on it. I watched from the parking lot while she tried to empty my accounts, and I let her walk into a felony. Before we dive deeper, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment letting us know where you're tuning in from. I am 71, a grandfather twice over, and if you ask anyone on our street, they will tell you I have the same routine every morning: oatmeal, the crossword, and a slow walk to check the lemon tree I planted when my wife was alive. My wife chose that sapling because it looked like a lost cause, 2 leaves, 1 stubborn green vein, and said we would nurse it the way we nursed each other through lean years. I still trim it the way she taught me, with the kitchen scissors she swore were for fabric only, and I still sign grocery checks with the blue-black ink she liked because it smelled faintly of iron. Before I retired, I spent 30 years as a county record supervisor, and if that sounds dull, you have never watched a family disintegrate over the angle of a signature. Paper is not paper to me, it is people, and I know how real ink breathes. 2 months ago, my granddaughter, Lily, came by after school, deposited her backpack on my chair, and tried to look at anything but me. She is a careful child, a whisperer of secrets to the lemon tree when she thinks I am not listening, and her voice was stuck halfway between brave and broken. She turned her wrist, showing the gum-lined scrapes of a fall she wanted me to fuss about, then said it fast, like ripping a bandage. "Grandpa," she whispered, "Mom's been practicing your signature." She said not to tell. The words turned my bones to ice. A child should not know what a forged loop looks like, but Lily does. She has seen my R 1,000 times on birthday cards and the margin of crossword puzzles I could not finish. My daughter, Claire, had been distant since her mother's death, surfacing for birthdays and tax season, smiling with her lips, already looking for the exit. Her husband, Trent, smiled like a salesman and spoke like a sermon: big promises, little truth. They started leaving pamphlets about aging on my counter, talking about downsizing and letting professionals help with my mail. I heard what they were too polite to say: "You are not a person to us, you are an obstacle to assets." I did not argue. An old man arguing just sounds like thunder without rain, loud, briefly impressive, and then everyone goes back to what they were doing. I knew if I raised my voice, they would only practice their alibis. So I swallowed the heat in my chest and did something else. For 30 years, I worked as a county record supervisor. I have watched brothers stop being brothers over a misdated quitclaim, and I have watched a widow sign her will under fluorescent lights that hummed like bees while machines counted her husband's breaths. Paper is not just paper. Pen pressure tells on nerves, hesitation marks betray a lie, and a notary seal, if you know what you are looking at, is a tiny clock that cannot help but tell the truth. Every stroke of a pen is a fingerprint, every notary stamp a time machine, and dates either save you or hang you. So I waited. And watched. I let the lemon tree be my calendar while I moved the checkbook an inch to see who touched it, left my mail stacked in a deliberate pattern, and kept my fountain pen where only I could reach it. I wrote my name 3 times each morning, slow and ordinary, so that when I saw it faked, I would feel the missing rhythm in my bones, not just spot it with my eyes. I told myself patience is not weakness, sometimes it is bait. First came the doctor's note Trent left conspicuously on my kitchen counter, a single-page diagnosing mild cognitive decline. It wore the right letterhead, and the doctor's last name was spelled correctly, but his first name had shed the accent mark that his receptionist, Maribel, with the iron bun and the sharper tongue, lectures people about like it is a sacrament. The loop on the J swung open to the right. Dr. Jerez closes his loops left. The signature tried too hard to look casual, you can always see the trying. My hands shook when I picked it up, not with age but with something colder. I slid the note into a folder I had marked with a blue dot and called an old friend who now worked for the district attorney. I told him I suspected forgery and that my daughter was somewhere on the other end of it. Saying it out loud felt like stepping off a curb I could not see. He did not promise anything, he did not have to. He gave me a detective's private number and said to keep all originals, make no scenes, and above all, let them do the reaching. I hung up and sat at the table my wife and I refinished, listening to the house breathe, and decided that if my own child had chosen this road, I would meet her at the end of it with the truth in my pocket. The reaching came the following weekend at a family meeting, around my dining table, the one my wife and I refinished after the kids left for college. Claire spoke carefully, choosing words like she was hopping across a river on stones. Dad, we found a way to simplify things. Trent's friend drafted a power of attorney, just in case. It will let us help with bills so you can rest. Trent slid the document across the table, face down first, like a dealer flip. When I turned it over, I saw my name correctly spelled, 3 names, 2 initials, and a signature that looked so much like mine it made my teeth hurt. But the downstroke on the R in Richard climbed before it fell. I have never done that, not once in 5 decades of signing checks, tax returns, and school permission slips. People think forgery is about lines, it is really about rhythm. They had my handwriting. They did not have my hand. I pretended to read like an old man reads, slow, careful, grateful. I asked for a glass of water. In the kitchen, I photographed the document under the under-cabinet lights and texted the pictures to the detective. Then I came back and asked if we could sleep on it. It was enough. 2 days later, Lily called from the school bus. Mom told Aunt Deb she has the paper ready for the bank today, she said, trying to sound like she was asking about her homework. I drove to the bank and parked far from the windows. The detective and another man in a windbreaker with no logo took the spot 2 over from mine and told me to remain in the truck until they knocked. They moved like people who had done this before. At 9 on the dot, Claire and Trent strode through the glass doors, their silhouettes crisp against the lobby light. The envelope in her hand looked too stiff, the way moral lines look right before they snap. I watched my daughter, the girl I taught to ride a bike on a hill steeper than I should have allowed, hand a stranger a piece of paper that said I no longer had a voice. It took 7 minutes. I could see the teller gesture toward the office in the back. I could see the bank manager lean in, flip the pages, and glance toward the door. The detective knocked on my window. "Ready?" he asked. "I have been ready since the lemon tree was a sapling," I said. We went in together. The bank manager's face gave me the first mercy of the day, recognition. He knew me. He knew I still used a fountain pen and signed in blue-black ink that feathers ever so slightly on cheap paper. Claire stood when she saw me, her eyes wide, her mouth already forming a lie. "Dad, You forgot one thing," I said. Her gaze flitted to the paper on the desk, then to Trent, who was suddenly fascinated by his shoes. "You forgave yourself for this," I continued softly, tapping the forged signature with one finger, "before you asked me to." The detective introduced himself and asked 2 questions. The first, did she sign my name? She said no. The second, who notarized the document? She said a name I recognized from a desk in our old church. The detective's partner produced a copy of the notary's commission. The expiration date had passed last year. It was not dramatic. There was no yelling. Trent tried to put a hand on my shoulder on his way out, perhaps hoping I would mistake it for support and not a test of whether I would collapse. I stepped away and told him to save his hands for his own affairs. Charges came later: fraud, attempted theft by deception, presenting a forged instrument. A lawyer said, no priors, and stress of grief, and we can work something out. The district attorney said words about deterrence, about people who think old age is an unlocked door. My son, Mark, called me that night. Dad, he began, this is a mess. Yes, I said. But it is not mine. We had not spoken much since the funeral. He had his own failures and did not like seeing them in high relief. I told him I had hired someone to help me with groceries and the yard. I told him Lily had been brave. He was quiet a long time. Do you hate her? He asked. I looked at the lemon tree through the window. It needs pruning soon. I loved your sister's first steps, I said. I do not have to love her choices. What happened next is simple and it is not. The detective did his part in the daylight, I did mine in the lamplight. I made an appointment with a lawyer named Harkness, a woman who believes punctuation is a moral choice and who has no patience for bullies dressed as caregivers. Her office smells like old paper and lemon oil. On the wall hang county maps from the year my grandparents were alive. Under her desk lies a basket where a small dachshund sleeps and sometimes snorts as if objecting to weak verbs. I told her everything, starting with Lily's whisper and ending with the expired notary stamp. She did not say she was sorry for me. She said, let us make this precise. We rewrote my will with the plainest language that could still land like a hammer. She drafted a revocable living trust that holds my house and the small cabin at the lake and every account with my name on it. We named it the Lemon Tree Trust because my wife would have liked the joke, and because I needed to see something living in the title. The trust bypasses both of my children entirely. It funds Lily's education first, tuition, books, rent, a separate line for unglamorous needs like dental and winter coats, and then, if she wishes, the scholarships my wife talked about for years for kids who age out of foster care. My wife was a school librarian who kept granola bars in a drawer for students who pretended not to be hungry. We used to talk, in the drowsy minutes after dinner, about setting up a scholarship called the Late Bell, so a kid who is late to everything, money, mentors, luck, can still walk into a future and not have the door close in her face. Harkness added a spendthrift clause, a no-contest clause that reads like a locked gate, and a letter of wishes in my own voice that explains why the scholarships exist and who my wife was when she laughed. We appointed a professional fiduciary as successor trustee, not family. We executed a healthcare directive naming my pastor's wife, level-headed and honest, as my medical advocate if the day comes when I cannot speak. We notified the banks and the county recorder. We put my signature where it would do the most good, under the word irrevocable when the time comes. I left Claire one thing, a letter. It begins with a story about a lemon sapling my wife once declared too stubborn to die, and ends with a sentence I wrote and rewrote until the ink feathered. The absence of consequences is not the same as forgiveness. In the middle I told her truths I wish someone had told me when I was young and certain, that apologies buy time but not trust, that you are never entitled to someone else's future, only to your own effort, that the door to me is open if she chooses to be honest, but the vault is closed forever. I sealed the envelope and wrote her name the way I did on birthday cards when she was little, every letter careful, no flourishes, and I put it in Harkness's file. The day of Claire's plea hearing arrived gray and cool. I wore the jacket my wife liked best, the tweed with elbows that have learned the shape of prayer, and I sat where I could see everyone but they could not see me first, half a row back, behind a marble pillar that turns faces into slices. Trent came in wearing his Sunday suit, the one he uses to look like someone's idea of respectable. My son, Mark, did not come. He sent a text with too many dots and then nothing at all. Claire's lawyer had the look of a man who duplicates his ties. The prosecutor had the weary kindness of someone who has seen too many daughters learn the cost of shortcuts. When the judge spoke, she took no pleasure in her voice, and I took no pleasure in hearing my daughter say, "Guilty." Pleasure is not the point, though people on the internet will want to make it the headline. The deal was what these things often are: the gravest count dismissed, a felony reduced contingent on restitution and probation, community service that will put her in a room with other people who thought paper could be made to say anything. Sometimes justice is as quiet as paper sliding across a desk. It was quiet here. Claire did not look back. I do not know if that was mercy for me or mercy for herself. When it was done, I walked out into clean sunlight that felt like being let out of a waiting room and called Lily from the sidewalk. She answered on the second ring, out of breath from gym class, the echo of a gymnasium buzzer thin behind her. "It is over," I said. "Are you okay?" she asked, small again for the first time in months. "I am watering the lemon tree when I get home," I said. I heard her exhale, the relief of a child who has been holding her breath too long. She told me about a math quiz and a friend's birthday, ordinary things that sounded extravagant after weeks of subpoenas and signatures. That evening I sat at the table my wife and I refinished, the same table where my daughter slid a lie toward me and counted on me not to notice. I took out my fountain pen, flushed it, and loaded it with the blue-black ink my wife always said smelled faintly of iron, like a railroad spike left in the rain. I signed the last page of the foundation paperwork, the late Bell scholarships, with a hand that has lost none of its rhythm. The notary across from me watched the ink drink into the good paper and nodded once, the way a person nods when a picture finally hangs straight. I am an old man, yes. But my signature still belongs to me. It no longer opens the door Claire wanted, it opens other doors, for children who have no one left to sign. Now it builds something bigger than greed ever could.
Hello everyone, and thank you for watching. I truly hope you enjoyed listening to this story as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you did, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel to help support the creation of more stories like this. Have a great day or evening.